The Living Voice is a podcast exploring what shapes our voice and how our voice shapes the world. I'm your host, Yilei Lau. I'm joined by guests from diverse backgrounds as we explore voice as more than communication. We'll look at how our voice is shaped by our physical well-being, our inherited stories, the cultures and environments we move within, and the ways each of us are uniquely wired. Together, we inquire into what becomes possible when we meet our voice with kindness, awareness, and curiosity. So my next guest here is joined with me from Central Otago, Talia Brand. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful tune-in together that we did, and the meeting of our energies, our voices. I love it. So I really have sunken down into my heart as well. I know we can go through the heady stuff and the tech stuff like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? So for those that don't know you, can you introduce yourself and a little bit about the journey you've taken with your voice and how you got to Central Otago?
Yeah, Central Otago in New Zealand. Currently I live in a little place called Lake Hawea, surrounded by beautiful snow-capped mountains as we speak. This part of New Zealand has always really captured my heart, and there's something very majestic and expansive around it, and the water that's here, and the mountains, and the geography. But I'm actually moving south shortly because my father's is unwell, so I'm going down to support him. But yeah, so a little bit about me, and thank you very much for having me on this call. And I come from the bottom of New Zealand, from a farm, grew up on a farm, grew up in nature, and I could always sing from the time I was a little girl. It was a way that I could express myself, and it was something that came quite naturally to me and of my own accord in a way. It was never any kind of pressure from the family. It was something that I had a natural inclination towards, and probably a place where I felt like I could really be me or feel me, or come home to myself when I sang. And from the time I was around 12 or 13, I listened to this classical recording of Kiri Te Kanawa, who was a famous New Zealand opera singer, and there was another guy called Inia Te Wiata, who was also a New Zealand singer. And I remember being very captivated by their voices, and it wasn't something that I kind of grew up with. I grew up more with like country and western music.
Contrast.
Quite a contrast, but there was something in me, which I maybe was a remembering, that I wanted to pursue that field. And so from the time of like 12 or 13, I told my music teacher I was going to be an opera singer. So that was a path that I pursued till I was 40, and went overseas and did postgraduate study and performed, and that was my world for a really long time. And then it all kind of abruptly ended at 40, and my marriage ended, and I came back to New Zealand. I did my last performance in Australia, and then there was a kind of gap, I guess, or an empty space. and wasn't sure what was next. And then I fully got into the world of sacred sexuality, tantra, whatever name you want to call it, embodiment, shamanic womb work, working with trauma, somatic experiencing. So I just completely dove into that world, and I became really fascinated around how the voice weaves in all of that, and how our voice is connected to our sexuality, even physiologically in the body, and feeling for this hollow kind of reed in a way that we have in our body between our throat and our pelvis. And I remember just being completely fascinated with the vagus nerve years ago, before there was much information about it, and just knowing that there was this connection somehow. And so, yeah, in my 40s, that was a path that I dove into really deeply. And then menopause journey, which is a whole thing in itself.
It is, yeah.
And how that affects the voice as well, absolutely. That's a whole journey as well, even physiologically, what happens with the voice.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think, like, does it dry up or does it open even further, right? Does it become even more expansive? So, yeah, and then in later years, I've had this very deep connection with whales. And, yeah. And the whale song, and how they're working with us consciously to remember, in a way. How they're working with us to remember, and how they're constantly swimming in these deep waters, and the invitation for us to join them and remember, in a way. And yeah, and I guess that has an influence on my work as well. So my work is called Vocal Alchemy now. And I feel it's like this place of remembering the true essence of who our voice is. The true unified note that comes through this connection between spirit and our soma and our sound. And soma being another word for the body. So it's like encapsulating all parts of us to remember who our song is. And I think that also is influenced ancestrally, like the ancestral song that for us to remember, and how our family lineage can influence that, but also just who we are as a soul, and coming back to that original note or primordial voice. And so I guess a lot of it, in a way, for me now is letting go of the performance and unlayering to remember who our unique note is, and how it weaves into the field to become unified with ourselves and with others.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And thank you for giving that kind of art, the journey of your voice, and how you be with it. And was there kind of an overlap when we were discovering more of that, and you still had that opera training, I guess, in that background? Did it jar with like what you were uncovering on the somatic level and what you knew about the voice, or was it quite natural bridge and just an addition to how you saw your voice?
Well, what you could say, I guess, in some ways there's more to unlayer, because it's a learned way of being, although I think we all bring our masks in some way, but there's nothing for me to, I think that art form is a very beautiful one, and so certainly I am grateful for it as a part of my pathway, and it's an important part of my pathway. And of course it will still shape and influence me somehow. And yeah, I guess my curiosity now is to not know anything, in a way, to not know, because of course with classical singing we're taught how to breathe, and we are using the whole body to sing, which is a wonderful thing in a way. And I feel like now a lot of it for me is just a deep listening and a softening and a receiving and a becoming like this open channel in a way. To not know who my voice is in a way. It's like, in a way, being able to drop into those deep waters of not knowing, because otherwise there's just some form of attachment of who my voice is. And I've always been told that I have a beautiful voice, but in a way, what does that really mean? I think, because in a way, you can have a beautiful voice, but more importantly, in a way, it's about me being able to touch something in you to remember yourself.
Yeah.
And so
I think this is it. Many of the listeners may be thinking, well, I'm not an opera singer, or I haven't had training. And a lot of people think I've had classical training. I guess that's what I'm maybe speaking to first about. It sounds like for me, it's like it may have prepared your voice in a certain way, but you almost had to, yes, and not unlearn it, but kind of park it to the side. And you had those techniques, like the breathing techniques and things like that, just has helped. But for those that haven't gone down that road of discovering their voice, it's not saying you have to go that way either.
no, absolutely not. And I think this is an important piece of vocal alchemy, is that to show up as who you are, because by the very nature of your existence you have a voice, and by the very nature of your existence you have your own unique note to resound into the world, and it's needed. And if we know that we are nature, she's holding a piece for each of us in a way. And so in some ways you could say that it's more beneficial to not have had training, but it's not to make one right or wrong, it's just to, in a way, not get caught up in the stories of she can sing, I can't sing.
Yeah.
Well, she has a voice, I can't sing in tune. Like all the stories that we tell ourselves and that are perpetuated from the time that we are little. Because I think when I really truly do believe that everyone, every voice, every note is really needed, and as part of the collective, as part of the circle. And that when you can find that voice, it's like, in a way, it's like it's revealing the fullness of who you are. And for lots of reasons, I think we kind of can lose our voice, or our voices become severed, or it's it's not maybe how we want it to be, and there's lots of really good reasons for that. And so in a way, this is just a place to welcome all parts of you.
Yeah.
Because I think when we can do that, there's something that will open up in your voice. Yeah, and so letting go, being able to feel safe enough and trust not only maybe who you're in circle with, but yourself in a way, to come back and really trust what your voice brings. And that's really important. And sometimes, being able to let go of all the stories, all the trauma, and really trust that we can open into the whole body to reveal who the voice.
Oh, can you talk? Okay, so many ways we can go, but the one of the things is that word somatic you use. There's a word that's out in the industry used quite a lot. Yes. So for you, because the key thing for this podcast is like what shapes our voice and how our voice shapes the world. Like how does, because it sounds like the stories, our parts, our trauma. Can you talk a little bit more about how that impacts us on the physiological level, or whatever level you want to, like what's impressed on us, if you will, and how that does impact the voice?
Yeah, because I think a conditioning now in what we hear in the world is often a little distorted. And for a start off, I think we don't often have a lot of space to just even really listen deeply or be in the silence. And I think that can reveal a lot in itself. So there's that place of being able to be in the stillness of our nature and nature itself, and use that as a gateway or a pathway. But I also think there's been this kind of severing, what I would call here, like a severing, and I think it's ancestral, historical, and there's something around somatic. So somatic in its simplest term, because it's a trendy word now, isn't it? But drawing awareness to the body, to the matter. And so there's something around being able to unlock and unfreeze and soften here for us to descend and drop fuller into the body and down into the pelvic bowl, into our womb space. And to feel this connection as well. There's so much to talk about with this, but to feel the connection with the breath. Like the breath is really our foundation for our voice. And so it's to feel this kind of wave between the diaphragm, the throat, and the cervix, and how they play with each other in a way, and how they communicate with each other. Like I think of them as kind of living places in the body or living holes, and so there's something around being able to drop and open and descend into the whole body and down into our trunk and even down into the legs. Like what I notice often is that people are very disembodied in their legs, and so I think of the legs as being like our root, or like the trunk of the tree. And when we can, in a way, that it's like it's like our support. It's like our support for our voice as well. And so if we can really drop into our legs and down into the soles of our feet, it's like the support for our voice to open fully. And then there's a different sound that can emerge. And I think for me, it's like I often feel like there's this lock here that's going upwards or ascending, and my curiosity really is in the unification between the two. Like we need both. We need to feel like we have access to both and what lies in between.
Beautiful. That's so interesting, you talking about drawing the breath lower down, and that's something one of my teachers invited us to do. And it's like, rather than and breathe from your belly, and it's like, and imagine tree roots and drinking from the earth. And it was like, that for me, that was a really powerful and helpful image, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really shallow breathing still. And it was like, so the visual, even though physically it's like you can't breathe through your feet, it's like, that really helped. And so, I heard someone say about almost imagine breathing through your butt as well. It's like to get that deeper breath, and it's like, oh wow, I'm not in my body. I'm like still hovering, and I'm afraid to go there. So yeah, that's a really good reminder for people to connect in with the earth, as well as, because most of us, I guess, on this journey that like to go wee, or we want to go fly high, and not connect downwards.
Yeah, well, that's the most interesting part, isn't it, about flying high? Because for me, I think the more I can descend, the more I can ascend, actually. And it's not to get stuck in the roots either. It's to feel them as quite malleable in a way. So we don't want to get stuck down there. We don't want to get stuck up here, but we want to feel that we can move between them. That it's fluid in a way. But it's a bit like a trampoline in a way. It's like you have to descend, you have to bounce down and then you can go even higher. It's like the more that you can, or like a buoy in the water. I think of like a buoy in the water, but there's still this kind of fluidity there.
Nice.
But it can go down, but then it can even pop up even higher.
Yeah.
It's like, in a way, I'm giving myself more access to there by this dissension. And there's something too around, like you talked about, breathing or something from the butt, because I wanted to bring in, like, there's something around the holes in our body that feel really important and their connection with each other.
Yeah.
As gateways as well. They're like this kind of information centers, and the more that we allow for the holes in our body, and you can feel where they all are, to be this receptacle or receptive or opening, it's like it's a way of expanding, in a way, our consciousness, but also, and that reflection is also through our voice. It's like, if I think of all those holes in my body opening, even down to the soles of my feet. And I always find words interesting, isn't it? Because when I think of souls, I think of holes, you know?
Yeah.
So if I imagine all of that, and I take a moment to feel for that, it's like something can happen in the way that I express or use my voice.
Interesting, because you mentioned very briefly, and I'm glad you said pelvis area, because a lot of people make this connection between the vocal folds and the uterus, but you mentioned it slightly differently. You said pelvis, and I'm glad, because I was like, what about the guys? Like this, can you talk more about that? And is that kind of leading into the sexuality, and what do you mean by that? Like our connection with our voice and sexuality? So many questions there.
Yeah, I think it's like this weaving again, or this split, I think that's happened in a way, between the mind and the body, and or the sensual and the sacred, or the spirit and matter. It's like this kind of separateness that's happened, and in a way our voice is an erotic organ.
Okay.
And so I would say, you know, through using my voice, I've had some quite ecstatic states. Like, I've had so much life force flowing through knowing how to use my voice and my body. And even in my sexuality, through vibrating my voice in my body. And I think this is a really important piece to come back to through all the trainings I've done, because, you know, so much nowadays is around using external things to have more pleasure or more life force, but we have everything in here, you know. And if we think of our voice as an erotic organ, and that we can vibrate it to increase our life force, and in a way increase our consciousness, you know, because when I think about sexuality, for me, I think of it as a place for expanding my consciousness. And it is a part of us, and it's how we're created, right? It's how we're created. So there's definitely like this practice that you can do. There is a physiological connection that happens in the womb, and they are kind of both the throat and, you know, the throat and our pelvis, our cervix, they're lined with this mucosal tissue, and they are living structures. They're rather than rigid. So if you think about all those places like childbirth or orgasm or grief, the deepest grief, the wail, all of those things where we're not so much in control, but really letting go and just opening. There's a song that comes through that. And so it's like, in a way, this connection between our voice and, you know, there's practices that you can do to really connect the two. And even now, as I'm speaking about it, I am taking a moment to feel for those two places in my body. And this, in a way, we could think of as like a hollow reed or a hollow tube, and how they're communicating with each other. And we all know that if we don't feel safe, or if we are in fear, perhaps in some sort of situation to do with our sexuality, this also closes.
Yeah.
This can also close. So if the freeze happens here, it also happens down below.
Because it mentioned, yeah, sorry. Is that the same for guys as well? Because you mentioned the womb before, but so how is it for guys?
So. I think so as well, because men also can tap into their energetic womb, but there's also, I think as well, like, I think we all start in conception we all start as women, and then it's determined. Have I got that the right way around? But I think that certainly the tissues, there's a lot of similarities between the tissues between men and women. So that's 100% something they can also be tapping into. Yeah, and it's, you know, yeah, there's a lot I could say around that too. And also I think even just the anus is a beautiful place for men to be tapping into as well.
So yeah, if that's their area of connection.
100%, because I think there's a lot of taboo around that area for men, but also I think it's, again, I know in my own practice when men can open to this place, it also helps them feel how it is to be more receptive rather than penetrative as well.
Yeah.
And to have a sense of that, and I think that can be very useful. So yeah, I think it's embracing that part of ourselves in the fullness or the wholeness of who we are and who our voice is. And it just brings so much more colour and notes into our voice and expansiveness, actually.
Yeah. So which way round, if there's, maybe it's not a which way round, but like when you're working with someone or even with yourself, when you're noticing something's happening here and that sexuality connection, it's like, do you question what's happened, what's going on for the person? They're just kind of like the body letting us know what's going on, or that's where it stores the history, the trauma, the memories down there. Is that your first go-to?
It's different for every person, and also these are tender places in our body, right? They are, I think, two of the most expansive places in our body, and also often the most shut down or repressed. So you have to approach it differently for everyone, and I think there has to be a real felt sense of trust and safety in the person. So yeah, I think it's not a one size fits all. I think it becomes a revealing over time, and it's, again, I feel it's like this kind of stripping away or unlayering that happens, and I think often it can just be small things, little things, like maybe it's just starting here and bringing awareness and noticing what's happening. And because I think sometimes to go straight down into the sexuality part can be quite a lot for some people. If you've already done a lot of work, then yeah, we can go there straight away. But sometimes no. Sometimes that could take quite a while, or we don't have to go there at all. But I think it's without a doubt they're related, they're connected. Without a doubt.
Interesting. Without a doubt. Wow.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Fascinating.
If this, and there's the whole thing too around the vocal fry, right? Like that's a thing.
Oh, well, tell me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a thing. I mean, I think a lot of this too is also, when I think about vocal fry, I think about breath as well. But I'm talking about that kind of, which you hear a lot nowadays, and it's this sort of affectation or conditioning again. You can hear it a lot, particularly like sometimes with American women, but it's become almost quite popularized or normalized, perhaps.
Oh, can you explain what air fry is for those that don't know?
It's kind of like that sort of retraction that happens in the throat, and I'm like, in a way, when I'm doing this, I'm feeling like everything is kind of shutting down in my body, and my breath is like really kind of stopped.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like sandpaper, the texture. Yeah. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, but it's and so I think that's a whole interesting thing that's happening in our culture as well, that's become almost normalized. Because there's something, and I think that is a lot around the breath as well, because the breath, at the end of the day, the breath is our foundation. It is our foundation, and I think, again, it's drawing awareness to the way because breath is life, right? Breath is life. And it's also drawing awareness in the way that we breathe. Again, that it's not just another trick or another trap or another thing that we've studied or done. That what is nature? What is nature? How does nature breathe through us? And actually, it's actually very simple, but we make it really complicated.
Yeah, we sure do.
Yeah.
So how can you give us a little glimpse of how you may work with someone and their voice? Yeah. Hang on, backtrack. What kind of stuff do you hear from your clients? Like, I know we had a few examples around like, oh, I know, but I can't sing. Or so what kind of things do you hear about your clients? Like, oh, I've lost my voice, or I've lost my confidence, or I want to sing better, I want to present. What kind of things that people coming to you with?
Yeah, singing's a big thing for people, isn't it? Like making sound. It's a really big thing. Like, so there's the whole thing, even just around speaking, first of all, and people being able to speak, or people being able to speak up, or people to have a voice. And then there's a whole other thing when it comes to making sound. Like, it's a really big thing. And there's,
True. That is so true.
yeah, because in a way it's like, it's a very intimate, it's quite a vulnerable thing in a way. It's like a really allowing yourself to be seen. It's like a kind of stripping away. It's like, and so it's sort of, it's kind of hard to hide, isn't it? You know, being able to, so I think there's often a lot of people want to work with that, often want to work with that connection, the sexuality and the voice. That's quite a common thread. Or they just want to learn how to, I don't know if sing better is the right word, because I wouldn't say that, but I think maybe come more into the fullness of their own voice, and who their expression is. And yeah, because I work somatically, I don't work so technically.
Okay.
I do very much somatically, and so I'm always, when I'm working with someone, I'm always looking at, even through the screen here, I'm always looking or feeling what's happening in their body and what's happening in their breath right now, and getting them to draw awareness to that as well. So there's so many places that we can go. Like, often it will be expanding themselves with their voice, like accessing, you could say, more cosmic or more galactic, like things will start to open as we open the voice. But it can be very simple as well. It may be just that their voice has felt very shut down, or there's some trauma there. And, you know, because I've studied something called somatic experiencing as well, I think for me it's very important. I work in quite a feminine way, more of allowing and unfolding and waiting and listening, and more through a lot of presence. So it's not so technical. Even though I have that kind of background, it's not, because in a way I'm not wanting to put more onto the voice.
No, true, right, yeah. You're just listening to what's required. So you're just pulling on, like, not even pulling, but I guess being an allowance of the information and the movements that are required for that person.
Yes.
So sometimes if it is technical, you bring that in, but if it's not, then
and you could say it's kind of technical in a way, but because I'm working somatically, I might be like, what's happening with your breath right now? Or like noticing that you're really not using your breath, like you're not letting the breath move, or what's happening on the in-breath. Like, I work a lot with the in-breath and the out-breath, and what happens at the top of the breath and the bottom of the breath. Because those are really big information pieces, right? Like, so many people get to the top of the breath and then they hold. What happens to the voice when you hold at the top of the breath before you start to sound? What happens at the bottom of the breath if you hold and can't let go? So like, all of that is influencing the voice. And so, but in a way, it's just listening to it's just a lot of listening and feeling into what's happening in your body. And yeah, and allowing the body to just, hear really. Hear. And like I kind of think of a lot of it as around a sort of slowing down and feeling. Like in a way, you have to feel more. You have to become more aware, more present. Yeah, yeah. And there is a kind of more intimacy that happens as a result of that.
That's really interesting, and that's where I've noticed the seasons I've gone through with that being still and just listening. And for those that are kind of wondering what the somatic work is, it's like when you're inviting the noticing of the what's going on in the physical body and the breath. Is that, I was just like, is that it? Like, what is there more? Like, are they doing anything else apart from being the observer and getting to naming it? What's happening with that out breath or in breath? What's happening there? Is that where the magic is? Or are they sounding? Are they?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It sounds really like it sounds so simple. Like, what do you notice at the top of your breath? But then, like, that actually has a huge, huge impact on you as a being in your everyday life, in your sexuality, in your voice, in how you show up in the world. Like, if you're constantly holding at the top of your breath, what part of you can't let go? What part of you can't let out, release? Like it's a whole information story in itself, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you notice what, for example, I just did it then, hold my breath, like grabbing question in there. Like, when we become the observer, it sounds like, let me see if I got this right, that you become the observer of your body and the sensation. And is part of that, like, one, if you're witnessing it dissolves, or you're witnessing it and then go, oh, wow, I've been holding my breath. That's interesting, becoming the observer. And then by naming it or just becoming the observer dissolves it, if that makes any sense, or is it's being seen for what it is, seen, felt, and the other one is feeling. Is it then to feel what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. So in a way, we're presencing it first,
Yeah.
and we're listening. We're in that space of listening and feeling, and then what wants to happen with that? Just yes. And then so it's then if we continue to presence it, if we continue to go, oh, this is interesting. How might this be impacting my whole life? Like, if I need to have an important conversation with my partner, oh, did I just hold my breath there? Or how is it to have that? How is it to have that conversation that feels difficult? And what happens when my breath doesn't continue to move? Like, what happens in that holding? What's happening in the rest of my body? You know, because it'll be impacting on every part of your body. And the voice is just the external expression of that. But yeah, in a way, I believe that I used to hold my breath when I was a child. That's what my parents have told me, which is an interesting thing in itself. And so, yeah, like that's just one little example in a way, I suppose, is like, oh, if I notice that I'm holding at the top of my breath before I go to speak or sound, or before I let out my breath, let's get really curious about that. Because how might that be shaping my whole consciousness?
Yeah. You just took me back to a memory then as well. Thank you. Yeah, I used to leave going to the toilet until the very last minute. And my mum would used to tell me off all the time. It's like, you always leave it to the last minute. So I'm just holding my, whatever, those pee organs to not try and, but then that really helped. Like, that was me, like, trying to hold it all in. And then it was like this, then wanting to
Yes.
express out.
Yes.
So Yeah, it's so interesting that such a muscle, a programming, I don't know, whatever, for whatever reason back at that time. And then how we subconsciously are just still holding since we're a child because whatever's going on in our environment.
100%. And I think again, it's not to make anything right or wrong either. Like, it's just to stay curious, because if we think about our breath, which is the foundation for our voice or our life force or everything really in a way, I mean, it's really good to get curious about our breath, really, isn't it? Because yeah, I think of it as kind of like a wave too. If we think, I always use nature as a kind of guiding force in a way, but like if you look at a wave and how it goes in and out, or a river flowing, like you never feel the sense of like the wave gets to the top of the wave. It always feels like there's movement. There always feels like there's continuous movement somehow, right? And so I think it's just really good to get curious about our breath, because I think it holds so much information for us as a being. And it's a gateway. It's a gateway to our expansiveness, to our consciousness, to to revealing, bringing awareness to ourselves and to bringing presence. And there's something again in being able to soften into our breath. Like, are we in control of it, or can we just let go and remember in a way? Because in a way, I feel like these kind of places, again, like if we think of orgasmicity or orgasm, we're not thinking about how we breathe in that moment, are we? We're not thinking about that. Or when we're giving birth, we're not thinking, we might be using, but something takes over, something more primal happens, more primal or primordial happens, and I think my curiosity lies there.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We've talked about breath awareness and becoming, I guess, the observer of what's happening with our bodies on the somatic level. And like with your process as well, then how does the invitation for sounding or voicing come through with you and your clients?
Well, I think it's an organic thing. And so, yeah, it's difficult to describe, isn't it? There's something about showing up fully present, deeply listening, and just seeing what wants to unfold in the space. And so, in a way, you're creating a container, but there's a lot of fluidity within that.
Yeah.
So, really, I don't know what's going to happen in a session. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But something always happens, and it's okay to not know, because I think when we don't know, something immediately in me can expand in that.
Yeah.
But some people that's frightening to not know. Some people that's very frightening.
It is, yeah.
Right?
Tell me what's going to happen. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen?
Yeah. So I think it's the willingness to be able to sit in that space as well. And of course things unfold, like of course they do. But it's very hard to say this is what's going to happen, because in a way that's not being in the present moment. That's a preconceived. It's like this interview, for instance, like there wasn't a sort of set formula of questions, but something unfolds in this moment, and there's something about bringing presence between the two of us that...
Oh, nice. Because I've got another note on my little bit of paper here. Interpersonal neurobiology. I'm really fascinated with when you mentioned this. I saw your video and it's like, yes, there's like, when we did in the beginning, it's like tuning in with each other, and there's something magical happens. There's a lot of communication, I feel, going on. Yes, energetically, but when we also vocalize it, there's just this added layer that, yeah, another connections made. Can you talk about that?
I love that term, interpersonal neurobiology. Like, I remember learning that when I did my training for sexological bodywork, and I just remember loving that term. And it's like I probably technically won't get it right if I say what it is, but it's something about the brain waves, the synapses. There's a certain part of the brain that it's like this communication that's happening between in the field. That's happening in the field, and it's happening in a way without words. So yeah, and it happens. It happens. It's like the communication that's happening, and it can grow stronger and stronger the more that we're unifying with each other. And I think that this is why sound is so powerful. It's like the communication without words. It's like we can let go of the thinking mind and drop into something that's ancient, really, something that is ancestral, something that, our ancestral cultures knew this. We've given it sort of clever terms now, but, like there's something happening with us now on the screen, but there was something happening probably in the dream time last night as well, wasn't there? So
Funny you should say that. I think it was like having a pre-practice dream interview.
yeah, yeah. But it's interpersonal neurobiology. Yeah, and so I think there's a field that happens, and we can strengthen the field and start making sound. Is one of the greatest pathways I know to do that as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love the group sounding, and I totally, because it's a felt experience, and for everyone, just ticks all the boxes on that level of connecting community, sounding without judgment. You're in this shared field, and this is a little, I guess, nuance, whether that's we're tapping into the field and sounding what's there, or we're feeding the field and amplifying what's there. It's so interesting. So you often work with groups in that
Yes, I
voice.
have done. Yes, I have done, and I think there's, as you say, there's something again around the intelligence of the field that happens, as you all know. So I think again, it's showing up in a way that you don't always know what's going to happen. You might have some ideas, but letting the intelligence of the field lead the way as well.
Mm.
But because there is that something, I think there's something too around working with sound that I really genuinely like to bring in, is to invite every note into the field, because I think we have quite conditioned ways of working with sound again, where we think this is good and this is not so good, or but again, it's there's a word, it's in a way contracting us by not allowing for every note. When we allow for every note, something else happens again. And I think allow for the croakiness, allow for the wrong note, allow for the out of tune, because within that field, something else starts to shift and expand and open, and you'll know this as well. And so, but it's like if you hold onto something too tightly, it kind of has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Right? And I always remember this prime example once of on a retreat, holding a retreat, and I had maybe she was like 72 or something at the time, something like that. She was in her 70s, and she always said that she couldn't sing in tune. And so what I did was I gave her the invitation to sing as fully out of tune as she could, like just go for it,
Yeah.
sing out of tune. And through that, she suddenly could sing in tune. But it was like giving her the permission to sing out of tune. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit like, you can apply this to so many things in life.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was just thinking when you were talking there about there's a lot of practices And I think people misunderstand, for example, like even meditating, it's like that you have to be quiet. Um, or you can't be, and that's the other belief that's out there. It's like, oh, you don't think negative thoughts or just be positive. And it just needs to annoy the fuck out of me. Because it's like, that's the resistance part when we're resisting the what we can't. That is just staying there even more. So it's that allowance of like, well, you're allowed to try and not be angry. So there's even a little micro one there. It's like you're allowed to not be angry. There's another character. It's like unearthing all these characters that are trying and resisting and pushing.
Yes. And trying to fit into this box of
Yeah, it's like I want to be
survival.
angry, but I'm allowed to not be angry. So there's two characters here at least.
Right? And yeah, and to feel that fight between each other and like what happens in between that, you know?
Yeah,
And
and
it's
so
like,
it's
oh, yeah, like even feeling that somatically, like them fighting with each other, and then suddenly what happens if they're not fighting?
exactly, and so that just even seeing it, and then the next, yeah, like another level is expressing that. Is like you said, it's like, well, I'm going to sing out of tune deliberately. You're allowed to be out of tune. It's like, oh my God, what a relief. I'm allowed to be frustrated. I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be all these things that people told me not, like is bad, like you said, and wrong.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And
Yes,
yeah, so going
there.
back to your um, the sexuality and the, I guess the trauma side of things, it's like there's a, I guess there's a big one is the shame of those of events that may have happened
Mm.
because that's like another for me shame comes like quite a lot not only in my own life but I see in others. And is that something you've noticed? Is like a I can't even go there because poof, shame sitting there.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and then the shame of being seen as well, like of being seen and the vulnerability in that. Yeah, it's a really big piece, and so I think depending again on where you're at and on the journey, you know, sometimes it can be useful to find someone that yeah you feel because and I was gonna I don't like this term this is a safe space. I in fact I abhor it.
This is a
There is
terrible space. Like,
yeah
I'm just
because
kidding.
the reality is that there is no safety in the world. Nature is not safe, so there's only a felt sense of safety.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you know you can be 20 people in a room and the facilitator says this is a safe space, but what if I'm not feeling safe?
Yeah.
What does that mean for me? Oh, everyone. Oh, but but I don't feel safe. So I think anyway. But aside from that, sometimes I think yeah, it's finding a person or co-regulating, having the sense of co-regulating with someone,
Co-regulating. I love this.
because we're not meant to do it on our own, and
No.
to do it to co-regulate with someone that you can feel safe with or you can explore your edges because I think we don't want to always be in the completely safe space all the time either. We want to explore our edges, right?
Yeah.
Going into the ocean isn't necessarily safe, but you know when, it doesn't mean that we're going to swim 30 meters out and suddenly get into the rip, does it? It means that we might go to the edge of what you know. So I think yeah, these spaces can be tender, and I think we don't want to re-traumatize ourselves. So I think it's like finding someone where you feel like you can bring all parts of yourself and unwrap them in a way
Yeah.
at your pace. We don't have to rip them off. You know, in somatic experiencing, we talk about titration,
Yes.
and also I think with this. It's important to bring the ecstatic pulse still in because I think, you know, I know in a lot of things I've done, it's like we can go into those spaces of grief and unwrapping. And then sometimes it's like still allowing the life force to move through us because that's the part of remembering who we are beneath all of these stories
Yeah.
and beneath the shame. And, you know, it's not to take away from that but it's to remember who we are in the wild root of who we are as a being, in our natural state, in our natural organicness.
That's
Yeah.
So important. Thank you to speaking to those things about the safe space, the word titration, and everyone's different. So what's safe for one person may not be for another. You may be adept, one person may be very adept at going to the depths, but we're not always looking at, I call those epic highs of transformation. We don't always have to go deep diving just because we can. Um,
No, and that can be another track too.
yeah, 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 transformational highs.
The deepest ocean, like that can be another track. Yeah. How can we sit in the subtleties of our life force as well? Like in our everyday life, how can we just feel the tingling, for example? Like it doesn't have, because I think again, if we're always wanting to be in the extremes, there's something around, how they come together as well. Like, but both ends of the pole. If we're always like sitting at both ends of the pole, like how can they come a bit more into communion or unity with each other?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, is there anything you're working on or playing with that's alive? What's alive in your life at the moment?
Well, I don't know. I think I've only touched a little bit. Like, I think where my curiosity goes is to this return in a way to the primordial voice or to the original song, our original song, and how that weaves in the collective field. I think there's something for me that I'm really curious about is this kind of place like sovereignty, synergy, and sacredness, like, finding a sovereign song and then being in the synergy of that in the field, and and what comes through, and the unity that can come through that. And so I'm really curious about using voice as a place for expanding my consciousness. It's 100% because, and I'm really curious around how the whale song, the information that's encoded there for us to remember,
Oh,
and how they're carrying this song for us to remember as well, and what they're teaching us. And
yeah, sorry, go on.
I think just on that note, I really want to acknowledge a teacher that I worked with who, when I asked him about the whales, and when he, oh no, I'm going to get emotional again. And when I asked him he sang the whales, and I remember the first time he did that, I sobbed so deeply because I felt like I'd come home. And I know I've been a whale in many lifetimes. So there's something around the consciousness of the whales that I'm really curious about to remember.
Nice.
Yeah, to inform us in these times. So yeah, I think that's this relationship between spirit, soma, and sound, and the interweaving and interconnectedness of it all, and to feel for both ends of the spectrum and to how they weave together. I think that is really important because I see a lot of people talking about ascension or rise. We rise,
Rising.
but we have to root to rise. I think it's really
Root to
important
rise. Yeah.
to rise. And I've got this, just reminded me of that book over there that I've got called When Women Rose Rooted. And as women, I think as well, as part of the feminine, we do naturally descend. And I think that voice is really important and needs to be heard again, because I do think there's been a severing and a split, and that's part of the sexuality piece as well. And I think there's something around returning to that song that feels really important to be heard in the world at this time, because there's something for me that when women can stand in that voice, it does move mountains.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for bringing that through. I want to come back to the well's note, but I also want to ask about what do you mean, or what words would you use to describe that sovereign song? I've seen this and pondering this myself around people saying like soul song or what's your soul note, and it's like, are people going, oh, is my song a literal song, or is it like the embodiment of
So it's
one's truth? And it's like, what does one mean by that?
I think it's a frequency that you're holding, and it's not a literal song. I mean, you might find a literal song that you might feel like that you make up that feels like it helps you with that. But I think it's more about a frequency that you can hear, and like when it resounds through someone, like something in you becomes alive when you hear it. It's like a truth. It's like there's a truth, there's a freedom, there's a wildness, there's an unfetteredness about that sound. It's like, oh yeah, that's her, that's who she is, that's who she's standing for. Yeah, and so I think this. What was the question? Like that was it. Was that
Yeah,
it?
that was pretty much like when, because you mentioned a sovereign song, but I've heard other people call like soul voice or their soul song or
Yeah,
their soul note.
yeah,
And I
and
was
so
just curious, going, oh, because back in the day, I was like, is it a literal song? Do you get a soundtrack like of your life? Excuse me.
yeah, and so for me, and everybody is different, but for me, the way that I feel that I can access that or continue to access, because it's ongoing and it's an unfolding and it's a remembering. I see it as a remembering actually.
Okay.
Like I see it as a remembering, and so I think that's why I feel the way I work now. I don't want to put more layers on, because in a way, it's a stripping.
Mm,
It's a stripping away. It's a revealing. It's yeah. It's like it's finding a way to work with sound that makes us naked in a way.
yeah.
Makes us naked, and so that's why I think it's so important to not get too caught up in formulas and um, techniques and things. And while they can be useful, ultimately, we already know how to sound. We already know how to sing. We already know.
Mm. That's it, because there's a lot of people go, so is my note like 483 hertz? No, just kidding. um, but yeah, that, I guess
But who's asking
I'm
that?
sensing what you're saying. And
Who's
for me, it's
asking the question?
exactly, then the brain, like the ego or
The
the
need to know.
mind wants to know,
The
give
need to
me,
know. If
tell
I
me
just
later
do
now.
that, then I'll find my note. If I just do that.
Exactly. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I remember one of my teachers telling me about baby. There are certain tribes that they would sing their baby in, but he also said once we hit, once they found that note, it was actually helping the mother relax the cervix, and so the baby could come out with much more ease for the mother and the child as well. So it wasn't screaming. There was this like this entourage of women that were like, oh, and I was like, wow, that's how awesome is that? Um,
Isn't that amazing? So it's almost, I love that one. And also, like, as the child grows and even into adulthood, if things are happening, or they're like, something's gone wrong, or, something's happened, they bring them back into the circle and sing that song again. It's like a remembering.
yeah, like a
And so it's almost
reminder.
like I wonder if, like, the tribe is tapping into the primordial song for the
Yeah,
child.
primordial song. So yes, the primordial song. I guess that was the other words how you described it before you said sovereign. So when you say primordial, it's like beyond. Like what is that for you? Are we just talking about the same thing here?
Well, it's like going back to the original, isn't it? Like the original, like I mean, prime is one. You know, you could say prime is one. Prime, so it's like it's going back to the root or the original source. And
Mm.
in a way, we don't want to make it too. But there's something around.
I don't know. So I'm trying to capture an idea in the air,
Yeah.
and you can't.
No, but I think you have a sense of when you can hear it. Like there's a sense when you hear it. I think you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
So it's knowing, sensing,
again,
rather than thinking and feeling.
I think it's a frequency that happens, and like I think of myself in a way of like as an open channel, um, stepping into this place, and it's a frequency that will come through in a way to find that it's not like I'm going to sing necessarily the same note every time, because
Thank
I
you.
think
Yeah,
there's something about being in the present moment and what's needed in the field in that moment as well.
yeah. So it just feels like the essence of it. I know I'm trying to use words to try to explain it, but I can understand that a lot of listeners will be like, so is it a single note? But that's good that you said actually maybe a different note. But I'm doing this because I often do this in classes where we're grabbing or we're tuning into that essence and then allowing it to be, like you said, express the soma and then the sound. It's like, oh, wow, I get it now. I get the magic of those things. The stars have aligned and the sounds come out.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways we could go with that, isn't there? Like, but I think sometimes too, it's like the frequency that you're bringing from other lifetimes and from other planets as well. And, you know, we know that there may be soul pods as well connecting, and that makes me curious too around the song that comes within those pods for the remembrance of, you know, of our culture in these times. But there is something around returning to source or returning back to that original song that feels like we were more easily able to tap into it maybe in past times, and there's something about the listening required and getting the noise out of the way to return to that. Yeah, that feels important and unfettered. Like, yeah, very much for me. It feels very true and very pure and very unconditioned.
Mm.
Yeah.
So with the whale songs, have you been connecting a lot? Is it like localized consciousnesses, or was it more whales on Earth, or is like there's like the New Zealand version, and they have their consciousness? Have you been connecting in with? Is there different qualities of whales?
That's a good question. Mm, I'm sure there is, because, you know, every whale is unique, isn't it? You know, what it's bringing again. But there's still, I think, a frequency or a song that's a collective consciousness within them. Yeah, and I had the opportunity to go to French Polynesia last year and swim with them, which was amazing. And that, I feel like that is part of something that I'd really like to do, is to take groups to sing with the whales.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I did intend to do it this year, but this year feels more quiet. So let's see what happens in the next few years. I feel like I want it to be a really organic process.
Yeah.
But there is something around us being around them as well. But yeah, their ability to hear, I think, and like the way that their sound can travel through the water, and the way that we hear their sound, like these long kind of sound, like nothing feels contrived or manufactured, or like it's just feels like this effortless song that flows through them, like just when you listen to them. And I think there's something about their relational selves as well. And yeah, there's just so much that they can teach us as beings, as these huge fields that they have, the way that they can hear far beyond what we can hear.
Yeah.
It's
What are they picking up on? Their antennas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but just listening to them sound, there's, the way that they sound, there's a lot I feel that they have to teach us.
So is that, I know we're gonna do, well, you are gonna do a transmission for us, which is such a treat. Oh my goodness. But before we go there, do you feel is there anything else that we're required to mention around the voice for the people listening?
I think what I would say is, if you're curious about your voice or want to work with who your song is or your sound, I think there's something around finding space to just be with your voice and hear your voice, and also expand your hearing out as well, because like it's not only hearing our voice, it's hearing our voice in relation with others and the wider field. But just to start to play, I don't think it has to be too serious either. Like I think there's something about bringing joy to your voice and not having to fix it or if I do this it'll be okay. I think there's like this place of just playing with your voice, like when you were a baby, and just like mama and just playing with it, like finding ways to play with it, and not, because I think we can get far too serious about it, and if I feel that, it feels like it contracts me somewhat. So I think there's something around, for me, is just to start getting curious and just to start to play with it, and to maybe even play with it just to have like a backdrop of some sound or even no sound, or even just to go into the sea and just to sing in the sea. But I think it's a muscle that we need to practice. And so the more that we play with it, the more it's like learning to ride a bike. But we have to allow ourselves time in our day, like anything, like doing yoga or whatever it is you do, that we have to allow time to listen, to hear our voice and to hear others' voices, because that's a practice in itself. And to hear nature. Like I'm someone that lives on my own, so I do have quite a lot of quiet, but my mind can still be busy. But I think just start, like just find a group that you can go and play with. Just start, because I think sometimes the hardest place is just starting, actually.
Great reminder. Play. Just start and play.
Laughter. Great medicine.
Not enough laughter in the world. We need more laughter.
More laughter, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, we are recording this on the 7th of the 7th. And how tuned in you are, because I'm just coming out of a cold. You probably can hear the remnants of that. But 7th of the 7th, what's it feeling like for you? I'm going to hand over to you for some words and whatever you want to sound and sing for us, because it sounds pretty magical.
Well, talking doesn't feel like my first language, so sounding is much more my original language. So I think I'll just go into the quiet and just see what comes. Yeah, and the invitation really is just to, if as you hear this, to drop down into the heart, into the base, and just to feel and let yourself receive without any stories. Tamoya ka tiamoya kamoya maya hishi moya ha maya Maya, 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 Kata Maya, Tata Maya, Shama. Tata Maya Tata Maya Tata Maya Tata Maya 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 Maya
Wow. Thank you so much, Talia. I feel like I went deep underwater. I was being invited to go to those deep waters. And those listening, I'll be curious to know how that was for you. Any more? It's hard to do any words after that. Any more? Where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Where's the best place?
Well, I have a website, taliabrand.com. So TALIA brand.com is where you can find me. And yeah.
Fabulous. I'll put that in the notes.
Always feels like everything gets a bit quieter after sound, doesn't it?
I know it's like, what? I'm gonna sit with that now after that beautiful transmission. I love talking with you. I can really feel the resonance of the way we work and the way we look at perceive sound and life and healing and in general. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you again and connecting with you. Hopefully in person, because I've seen you on Facebook and known of your work, and I'm just and very inspired. I'm very inspired by what you're offering.
For the invitation and for connecting, and it's been really beautiful to deepen in person with you and to feel what you're doing as well. So thank you.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.